Welcome to the Scaling Japan podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Bettino, and on today's episode, we have Brittany Arthur. She is the co-founder and CEO of Design Thinking Japan, where she leads human-centered AI projects for global clients like Nissan, Honda, and Starbucks. DTJ is the official partner for the Microsoft Elevate initiative that aims to elevate AI skills in society. She's also the founder of the Business Karaoke podcast, which I highly recommend you check out. The first bilingual podcast on Japan global business with over 5 years running, and I highly recommend you check it out. Recently, she has been running a human-centered AI leadership academy, and I have heard good things about it from my own clients on how she educates corporates and business leaders on understanding AI. Welcome, Brittany. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast.
Tyson, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you so much. And as you were saying about the podcast, I mean, one of the solid episodes is the one with you. I mean, your episode as well. We're calling in from Daikanyama today as well, so you might be hearing, just some liveliness from Daikanyama. As you know, being in Shibuya-ku means there's a lot going on. There's police, there's police cars, there's ambulances. So, audience, if you're audio only, forgive us.
And yeah, and for the listeners, I highly recommend you check out some of the Japanese episodes as well. Brittany has really amazing Japanese.
No, it's not only that. You know why, Tyson, I started doing it in Japanese is because if you and I were to speak to someone who's using English as a second language, right?
Yes.
We would never think, oh my goodness, this person's English is terrible, or what a strange accent. We would thinking, oh my gosh, this person, what a great job that they're doing. And I just didn't see many people really putting themselves out there in the Japanese language and telling that kind of bilingual story. And I thought, you know, I don't mind looking stupid. So I
Oh
will do
no,
it.
it's and I
I will do it. Yeah, and so yeah, that's kind of where the Japanese English idea came from. And also, when you're speaking in your native language, it's obviously easier. You can tell a different story, and it's
yes.
so interesting. Like the guests that we have, their story, especially if we do like a split episode, like a Japanese English episode, it's completely different. Like
I
completely
agree.
different.
I've
Yeah.
I've done recordings, I have Japanese guests, but pretty much if we don't go on script, like they're like, "Oh, don't put me on the spot like that." And so if you did it, yeah, I think let's say the quality of content and insights you can get by doing it in Japanese, really good call.
It's different. Yeah, it's super different, especially if you're talking about so for example, like even just one of our most recent episodes with one of a really impressive guy. His name's Junichi Yamashita. He did incredible work around like even the Coke On app and stuff. And he speaks
Oh,
perfect English and Japanese. But when we're so basically his super interesting story that I really liked is that he's an intrapreneur. So how can you bring
mm,
entrepreneurship into a company? And we obviously had our English episode and we had our Japanese episode, and the different angles were so interesting. And if you're, people like us, you're bilingual, bicultural. I mean, I think you can get really a lot of value out of the episode as well. So definitely thank you, everyone. Go check it out as well. Nothing wrong looking a little bit silly.
oh, it's awesome. And yeah, for today's topic, we're gonna dive on, what is the corporate landscape in Japan in regards to AI and, really getting, I mean, your boots on the ground, like, so we can
You
really
got it.
get we
That's
can
it.
get the ground truth. Not, not the PR, not the public
Yeah, the
images.
gemba, honto no gemba no
Yeah,
hanashi.
honto no genba no hanashi. And so I guess first off, before we dive into the what made you start the AI Leadership Academy and what service do you provide?
Thank you, Tyson. How it started. Maybe I think in order for me to answer how we started the Human-Centered AI Leadership Academy, it actually has to do very much with the corporate landscape in Japan at the moment. So the corporate landscape in Japan at the moment, if I'm speaking broad strokes here, I would say is enthusiastic around AI. So I haven't met a company yet that's like, AI, no, I think we're going to sit this one out. Like I haven't met anyone that's
Mm,
kind of saying that. Everyone I have spoken to is very positive around AI. but it's a little bit layered. They're thinking where to start. We don't know where to start. Do we have the people? What are the issues? They're very nervous about where to begin. And because of that, lots of companies, despite having a big brand, having lots of people, being really a lot of impact, are slow to make a decision on what we think about AI. So AI, we need to keep really top of mind. Rather than thinking about what it can do, you have to think about why you want it to do the thing, whatever that you want it to do. So the why, the who, the what for, the people behind it is really key. And all of this has to come from top management. Top management has to put their flag in the ground and say, this is what we think about AI. This is how we feel. This is our company approach. This is what we think. These are our values. You cannot outsource this to like a pack of interns or something, or like, Shinyu Shain. You have to have that coming from the top in terms of where are we going? Where is the ship going? And how this kind of came about, or where the Human-Centered AI Leadership Academy came about, was that, of course, we have our corporate clients, we do corporate training, but we had individual people coming to us and saying, hey, my company hasn't made their mind up on AI yet, and I'm not just going to sit around and basically wait for them to make a decision. I want to get out in front of this, but AI for AI's sake doesn't resonate to me. Where you guys came from, which is that human-centered design piece, that's really interesting to me. I think that's really important. I really resonate with that. And so can you basically help me get in front of AI? And we're like,
Gotcha.
yeah, I guess we can. And so we basically took our corporate pack, like what we usually do for corporates, and then we gave an opportunity basically for individual people to join. Now, the people that join are interesting. They're kind of like a couple of different people. So they tend to be owners. So they either own a business or they like own a department, right? So they're like, and they want to
Gotcha.
essentially set the scene on AI. So that's where it came from.
Gotcha. And I think so that'd be more like a department chief, kind of like a bucho.
Yeah, kind of like a Bucho Kacho kind of person.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Now, this person is really interesting. And I think this is so interesting about Japanese companies that if we think about some of the negatives, right, which is it's a little slow and, there's a lot of kind of, bureaucracy. But once a company does decide to do something, I mean, you can go all in and then all of a sudden you have 10,000 people working towards the same goal. And it's incredible. And so we decided to open it also, for that kind of person, because, if we think about also like what's their day-to-day life like at the moment as well, is, a lot of that kind of bucho kacho person is that they have these mandates, Tyson. And, you said that I'm boots on the ground. I'm certainly boots on the ground. And I'm hearing crazy things. I'm hearing things like we have to grow. We have to double in size. We have to triple in size. And we've been given zero additional resources and we've been given zero additional headcount. How are you supposed to double in size or triple in size with zero additional
Gotcha.
resources? That means you basically have to do whatever you're doing at the moment, you have to do it better, right? And so this is where we've been able to come in and work with like individual departments and say, okay, how are you doing things? Keep in mind, we do that. But if you're thinking about what's really impactful would be each department is working like that, right? Because people think about AI being a vertical. Oh, the same way that we did with DX. This is a mistake because if we think about AI like we did DX, it's going to end up where DX ended up, which was kind of a nice to have, right? DX, AI is not a nice to have. AI has to go from vertical to horizontal across the organization. And each person needs to understand, where does AI fit into my business? And to be honest, this is really where leaders have to help, because you can't just say, okay, everyone, you have access to Copilot or you have access to whatever, go and use AI. If the individual teams haven't identified what's a clear issue for them that they want to solve. So I'm going to
And,
stop there before I go down another
no,
rabbit
it's
hole.
it's very good. And so yeah, you mentioned so there is increasing pressure on these department leaders in corporates. Is has I guess I'm kind of trying to think of maybe like a macro kind of question, but
Yeah.
has something happened on the macro end? I mean, probably obvious, probably
Yeah,
AI
like
probably is the biggest one,
yeah.
but
So I hope that the Scaling Japan podcast is very similar to the Business Karaoke podcast in the sense that it's not advice, it's just experience. So this is not like, fact or anything. This is simply just kind of my read, having worked in AI, and then also been in Japan for so many years and with human-centered design. My read on the macro, as in why is this happening kind of now, is because Japan, by and large, missed software as an era. By and large, missed software. Now, we have seen this, in many other kind of places. If you think about even the internet, if you think about Southeast Asia or even parts of Africa, they didn't do the dial-up internet. So Tyson, did you do the dial-up internet? Like you had to download 2 songs overnight? Yeah, you too? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm very much from the generation where you would like download 4 songs. You'd like hit download and you'd be like, no one touched the phone line because
Yep.
I'm downloading 4 songs. And then in the morning, you would wake up and then you would have 4 songs that you could listen to, right? So I'm very much that era. But then there's another group of people who missed that era completely and they went straight to mobile. Now, this is very similar to like what we're seeing with AI, that if your country, i.e. Japan, by and large, completely missed software, you have an opportunity to intercept economies and countries who didn't miss software. However, the only way to do that is through a very high level of AI literacy, which is one of the reasons why Microsoft led the Microsoft Elevate program, which is who we're official partners for, official training partners. They're so invested in Japan. It was the second largest, I think, investment in Microsoft's history, or the largest Microsoft investment in Japan's history. In AI infrastructure and cloud technologies, because they're saying, hey, Japan, if you don't ride this AI wave, we can very easily see, and I'm saying Microsoft is saying this, but I'm saying this is then like the micro issue is Japan is at risk of becoming a third world economy with declining birth rates and aging population. And for example, we can even see like the lowest, I think, English literacy in the last 20 years or something, right? I think there's something like that as
Yeah.
well. And like the lowest amount of like passport holders. But I mean, who's getting a passport and going to LA when people are earning 3-4 million yen a year? Nobody, right? So this is where we've got to be really honest to say where we at as a society. And I think that for me, I think is why Japan on a macro level, why that is so important here in Japan. Obviously, in terms of macro level, what's been also going on, the reason why we've seen AI, boom over the last couple of years is because of access, to the technologies and dropping costs and things like that. But if we look at Japan, that's a real problem. On the flip side of that, where we believe Japan has a real opportunity is in the physical AI world. So if you think about what that means, Japan is and has been for many hundreds of years been known for a deep craftsmanship and
Yep.
quality and manufacturing and making. Now, AI has to live somewhere, right? Unlike software that lived in our computers or lived in our phones, AI can live anywhere, which is exciting for Japan, which means how might Japan find a way to increase their AI literacy, right? While still respecting their, manufacturing roots and then intersect at something we call physical AI. And I believe this could be really transformational for the Japanese economy. And this is where we at DTJ are betting big. We bet big on physical AI for Japan.
Gotcha. So I think you shared some really interesting and solid, kind of like external pressures on companies. Have you heard from some of your clients maybe some of the internal pressures, maybe like from the board,
Yeah.
shareholders?
Yeah. So I'll talk you through. Okay, so there's the typical ones, right? So as I just mentioned, we need to grow in double in size, triple in size, and guess what? Zero resources, right? But the worst thing that not necessarily the worst thing, but the most critical thing that I have seen when it comes to a company succeeding with AI or not is leader-led learning, right? So what does that mean? That
Yeah.
means if you have a group of leaders that say to an AI team, okay, AI team, go and work out what AI is, right? Go and work it out and then come back and let us know what you find out. This is not as successful as a group of leaders who then go and build what we call at DTJ your minimum viable literacy, MVL. Like, what's the minimum amount that you need to know in order to have a really good conversation, right?
It's, yeah.
Um, And so I think the one thing that I wish, right? I wish more for leaders in Japan that I'm struggling, not that I'm struggling with, but I'm hearing people struggle with, is that the goals from the top are very I might like they're very
Yeah.
vague. They're like,
And
go and figure out AI,
go,
sprinkle a
go
little
to
bit of
go to
AI. Yeah,
Japan, go to Japan IT week
like
and figure
do
it
a little
out.
bit, exactly, bit of AI. And this is setting two people up for success, or not setting up for success. One, it's not setting up the person for success because you don't have any metrics. Okay. What are we doing AI for? For who? For to solve what problem, right? So if you say go and figure out AI, that's a mammoth task, right? And the other thing is the leader themselves, I'm thinking, is also not doing themselves a justice in order getting their hands dirty, because AI, what we often say, is a multiplier, not an addition, right? So what does that mean? That means AI, no matter how many times you times it by a number, if your input is zero, you're still at zero. Zero times 10, zero. Zero times 100, zero. Zero times a million, still zero, right? So if you are, as a leader, despite the fact that you have all of this, experience and all of this vision that you want to lead your company, if your AI literacy is zero, you're functioning at zero, right? So what we want to do is we want to find that level of leaders matching or meeting their own minimum viable literacy so that they can go and support their AI teams to be able to do, better work.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, because I think the expectations, let's say the C the much higher leadership is having towards the senior leadership is it is kind of unreasonable in a way. Like to go from
Yes, it's
zero
unreasonable. Yeah, it's
and
absolutely unreasonable.
and at the same time they're not providing any resources, guidance on how to go about it. So it's
Yeah,
just kind of like
and
really throwing them in the deep end. It's kind of like a startup in a way.
exactly. If we think about AI as your vehicle, right, that you get somewhere really quickly, if AI is your vehicle, your fuel is data, right? And this is probably, I think, where the crux of some of the points that we get to is that many Japanese companies like, oh, great, let's use AI for our Excel. I'm like, well, it's like taking, a horse and putting an engine on a horse rather than being like, you could make a car. You don't need the horse anymore. So it's a little bit like this. So I think there's that idea of everybody having their own minimum viable literacy around AI. Obviously each person's level of literacy can be different, right? Like a very technical person or someone working in development would need to have a different level of literacy than, say, for example, a leader or someone in marketing, right? But still they need to find whatever their minimum viable literacy is. And then, if we think about data, traditionally, if we think about Japanese companies, that's another kind of issue, like bad data, some data in Excel, some in some spreadsheets, some in some, paper in the back office, right? So I think in order for AI to really bring a lot of value to companies, that fuel has to be
Yeah.
looked at quite critically. And I think a few companies haven't yet done that. Hence, they're not seeing like the return on AI that they thought that they would.
And what are some other areas you would consider as kind of minimal viable literacy for
Mhm.
AI?
So minimum viable literacy in AI, I think about perhaps on a couple of levels, right? So the first one is I want you to think about what the problem definition. So AI, if we think about it, is a tool or it's a material. Designers often describe it as a material, right? Do you want a house of stone or do you want a house of glass, right? AI is the kind of the same thing. Um, Thinking about what's the problem definition around AI, being able to have an educated decision around AI from a problem stance is really important. Data is really important, just understanding that data is the input, garbage in, garbage out. If we don't have clean data, no matter how much AI we put into a project, it's not going to end well. And I think two other real key points around your minimum AI literacy, or your minimum viable literacy, is also around ethics and security. So if we think about AI as this fuel for society, of course there's, the idea of what we can do. So there's the AI, the technical capability. But I think just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it, right? And I think this is something that we have been seeing more recently, people saying, being more critical of, for example, companies that have their own foundation models, whether it's, OpenAI or Claude, and say, or for example, Anthropic, for example, has their own, for example, AI safety teams and things like that. And then conversely, you'll see OpenAI say things like, actually, we're removing these barriers because we never intended OpenAI to be your therapist, right? To be fair, as humans, we've kind of always done this. We've always done this. If you think about that, seatbelts were released 80 years after the commercialization of a car. That's also kind of crazy, right? So I hope it doesn't take us 80 years to be able to have that same level of like a seatbelt, like, because a seatbelt is, it's built into the design of a car. People don't choose seatbelts anymore. You have to have a seatbelt, right? It's regulation. And so what I would like to see is that we have that same level of like systemic success. And I think this is really key when we're thinking about AI being such a broad spectrum or such a widely spread tool, is that you cannot have the user burden be any higher than it already is. You can't have a user have to click, do I want a secure system or not? Do I want an ethical AI or not? Or I didn't prompt my AI, to be ethical, so therefore it's not ethical. This is totally crazy that this burden is on a user at the moment. It is crazy, and I think it's almost like it's inexcusable. This has to be at a systemic level built into some of these models, the same way that we have non-negotiable, seat belts into a car. Now, of course, same thing with cars. If there are people who don't choose a seatbelt, yes, okay, sometimes they don't use it, but at the same time, that person is set up for success. It's there for them to use it, right? So I think we need to see that also around minimum viable literacy as well for AI, when it comes to actual security, and then also things like ethics. I think is going to play a really big role too, especially when it comes to AI sovereignty being such a big issue. So things like, I'm from Australia, even though I have a super weird accent. I have a really strange people are like, where are you from? It's not American, it's not British. Like what? So I'm Australian originally. So Australia doesn't have their own, open. We don't have our own foundation model. Does that mean that our values and everything that we do is then dictated by whatever a foundation model says in the US? At the moment, Tyson, the answer is yes, right? What does that mean for a country like Japan, where truth, it's kind of not a value here? Like, relationships are more valuable than truth. And if you think about, for example, a foundation model like XAI, it's trained on what is truth. Like, truth is the core driver of like the Grok model, right? In Japan, truth is kind of, obviously it's important, but the relationship, and there are so many other cultural elements that drive. So how are you working with an LLM, or whether it's another foundation model, whatever, and it's not necessarily connected or representative of your cultural values, right?
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, I'll give one example, then I would like to double down there. But in
Yeah, let's do it.
Japan, if you criticize a company publicly, like on a Google review, even if your comment is true, they can still
Yeah,
sue you.
yeah, for defamation. Yeah.
Defamation, yeah. So just to let's say confirm the point that Brittany made, that truth is actually not the most important thing, but reputation and relationships are. And
Yeah.
yeah. So I just want to make that point.
No,
And
it's
yet,
super true. Even Tyson, it happened to me last week. My realtor clearly made a mistake, right? As I'm on the phone to my realtor, and I'm like, but also I had to ask it in a way that this person didn't, this person didn't fail, right? So basically, I should have received a document probably 4 months ago that I still haven't received. And so I called them and I was like, I'm just wondering if that document is on its way or not. And then my realtor said, oh, I'm so glad that you called, because I've just received confirmation today that that document is on its way. And I'm like, this is clearly a
yeah,
lie.
yeah.
But we're all kind of playing the game for the sake of the relationship, right?
Yeah. Like let's say they say face, you got your document.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that I think that point you make about AI sovereignty and having your culture, represented. Yeah, no, that's very, I've never thought about that, but no, that's very interesting and how this is actually, it does sound like a crux, like a crucial point for Japan to have some influence at this point, or else probably it might be too late.
Mhm.
But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things that are really key. I think AI sovereignty is going to be important for all nations, right? So, but then again, you can't have then the world be split into AI haves and haves nots, right? And so, one of the ways that we like to think about it is that AI is a foundational technology. So it's people kind of compare it to like the internet or like social media, but it's more like electricity than anything else, right? So it's more like electricity. So if you think, there are many, places now, 100 years on, or for however long we've had electricity now, that still don't have electricity, i.e., like in many parts of Mexico, many parts of the Amazon, and there's many parts of, in the world, Tyson, that you also intimately know, living in Hokkaido and also in Hawaii, that the weather can also change in an instant. Your access to electricity, right? Too hot, too cold, tropical storm, snowstorm, whatever, done. Um, and I think that this is also very similar to AI, that you can live without AI, you can live without electricity. But if you think about which societies have, thrived, which societies are more educated, are more safe, are more healthy, are more prosperous, they tend to be the ones with more reliable access to electricity, right? And so it's going to be very similar to AI.
Gotcha.
So I'm really looking forward, or we spent a lot of time thinking about what would AI sovereignty look like for different nations, obviously, because not everybody has or not every nation has the same spending power as the US or China. What is that going to mean for countries like, where I'm from in Australia, or, where we live in Japan, or even Malaysia, Indonesia, all different kinds of countries that deal with their own issues. I think that we need to find a way that each culture, I think, is going to have to find, essentially, I don't know whether they build their own foundation model. That's an incredible big lift. That's like, hundreds of millions of dollars. But there are ways, for example, even if you're a company, that you can say, okay, maybe I don't necessarily have my own foundation model, like, you do in the States, you have a couple. But let's say I have my own private environment that I can create, that I can dictate. So one way that I like to think about it is like, imagine if you're going to Italy on a holiday, right? It is possible that you can build a hotel for you to stay in for 2 weeks while you're in Italy, but you're like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to then go and do that, right? For me to build a hotel.
Mm,
Well, what you do is go to an existing hotel and rent, a safe, secure private room that fits your aesthetics in the place that you want to go, and you can rent that, right? And that's going
gotcha.
to,
Yeah, I
so
see where you're
that's kind of
taking
what
this.
I'm thinking. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking, what I hope to see when it comes to AI sovereignty. Not every country can afford $100 million foundation model, but I am hoping to see that every country can at least have their own like private environment that
Gotcha. Yeah.
they can dictate the culture, or what's important, right, to them. And also that can then even translate down to even, a country level a company level as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's very interesting. And it seems that, for a corporate, let's say, department leader or executive, they have to think about data literacy, let's say AI sovereignty,
Yes.
responsible AI principles, AI strategic planning, I guess what's currently being done, what can be done. And so I guess, and you did mention the minimal viable literacy, but
Mhm.
how do you get these corporate executives and I guess department leaders to reach this point?
Okay. So before the first most important thing is that no matter how fast you feel AI is running, AI, everybody, is a marathon, is not a sprint. if you sprint through this, you are going to burn out, right? So I need you to think marathon, which means if there's a week that you need to sit it out because you need to rest and recover, go sit it out. Don't worry about it,
It's
right? AI,
actually, yeah, internally we've had to do I think usually every 6 months we might just do a 2 months deep dive and then
yeah,
take like a 4 month break. And I guess after those 2 months we kind of find a diminished returns
that's it. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
or time
And
invested.
yeah, I think that's a kind of like the perfect analogy is to know that you're running a marathon, and what's the most important thing about running a marathon is that you run your own race, right? You're running your own race. You are not running the race of the guy next to you or to the right of you. It's your own race, whatever that's going to look like. So in terms of how we get managers to like get that minimum viable literacy, the same way that if I were to sit down with, a head of a department and I said, I want you to open up your Outlook and then I want you to send an email to this person saying this thing, they can do that. They can do that. Which, what does that show? That shows that we have reached a technical level of literacy before, and there's no reason that we can't do it again. And also, another thing that I also hear people say, oh, but older Japanese people are not, that tech literate. Have you not seen them on the train with their phones and playing games and everything? They are more than fine. They are more than fine, right? They can get around their apps, no worries. But I think, yeah, so this is pretty key when it comes to running AI throughout an entire company and getting to that minimum viable literacy. One is that it's not a sprint, it's a mindset, and also understanding that it's your own race, right? What your level of minimum viable literacy versus somebody else's might be different. The kind of like the litmus test as to do I have an adequate level of literacy is that do you feel that you can vouch for your that you are that in this AI age that your strength is even stronger because it should be, right? AI is a multiplier. So if you feel whatever you do should be 100 times stronger today than it was 5 years ago, if you don't feel like that, then maybe your literacy isn't where what you need it to be,
Mhm.
right? But if you feel like I do what I do now 100 times better than I used to, even 5 years ago or 3 years ago, that would kind of be my question. Because again, AI is a multiplier. It doesn't, replace anything, it multiplies what's already there. So I think that's something important to keep in mind, the idea that AI is there to support you in your work. And when we're really looking, another really important point when it comes to particularly AI development in Japan is you need to plan as much time for adoption as you do development, right? So this isn't okay, we've developed the AI solution, okay, boom, everyone uses it. This is, let's say you take 6 weeks for adoption, you're going to, or 6 weeks for development, you're also going to really think about what's your 6 week adoption plan as well. Like that almost has to be like a perfect balancing scale as well. This is something I would say that, yeah, we've really started to pick up on in the last probably 8 to 10 months is having your adoption plan, taking your adoption plan as seriously as your development plan.
I agree with that. When I was running operations for One Coin English, we had 50
Mm-hmm.
full-time staff, 150 part-time staff, and we created an internal, let's say, internal portal site where people could find
Uh-huh.
information. It took us 4 months to make, and I put 9 months to implement. Or sorry, six
Perfect.
six months to create, 9 months to implement. And the reason was the first 3 months, I actually expected that people wouldn't do it. So then I would have to get, even if
Uh-huh.
I would get upset, then they would, let's say, because I guess in our case, a lot of Japanese staff and foreign staff were working very hard.
Yeah.
Let's say we're moving at a fast pace. Um, let's say,
Yeah.
or there was more things to do than time allocated.
Yeah.
And for that reason, kind of going back to you say the implementation period had to be longer. So after that first 3 minutes, I'll get like, "Hey, why aren't you guys doing this?" And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Okay, we got to do it." Yeah, we didn't do it.
And
Moshiwake
yeah, and
gozaimasen.
so, but do you know what, Tyson? Like exactly on that point is, especially if you're dealing with like is like a small to medium business, or for example, if you're dealing just in your department, the thing that you like, let's say that you're implementing an AI solution. That AI solution can't just be a little bit better than what people are already
Yeah.
doing, because then they won't do it. It has to be like 50 times, 100
Gotcha.
times better in order for them to pick it up. Because in order for someone to step away, learn something, try it again, get used to it, implement this new system
Yeah,
into whatever
to
their
change a
routine is,
habit or a fixed behavior
to
pattern.
change a habit, it can't be a little bit better. It has to be
Mm,
astronomically better than
great.
what they're already doing. And that's then our job, is to communicate this is astronomically better than how you're currently doing it. Now, one of our future proofing ways that we do this is that at the very beginning of our AI development, we go, what do you want to do? And they might say, oh, for example, I have 50 staff, and if someone's, sick one day, or someone wants to take, holiday, the whole schedules change. Okay, so what you need is not an AI solution. What you need is a confident way to staff your classes, right? That's how you've got to think about things. You can't think about it like on an
I
AI level.
gotcha.
You have to think about it on a level of, what problem am I solving for this person, right? Okay, the problem I'm solving is I have a confident, reliable schedule every week, no matter who's sick or who's on holidays, right? That's what you're going to get. And people go, oh, okay. And then you show them, what it looks like or how you use it, or ideally during development, maybe you've even tested it with a few people, for them to give you feedback, on whatever it is that you're building. And then that tends to help as well. But yeah, as you said, you cannot just be a little bit better. You have to be phenomenally
Mm,
better in order for someone to like change their habits.
interesting. I want to double down on this topic. So that was one great example of how to get, AI implemented in your company, is having something that was 50x better. Do
Yeah,
you have
at least.
any other thoughts on maybe helping people implement AI usage in their company?
Yeah. So for me, AI confidence is literacy plus experimentation. So it's not AI literacy, or AI confidence is not just literacy, because especially in Japan, like, I love my Japanese participants so much, Tyson. You have no idea. Like, I mean, you've also run, I know, like, for example, with OneCoin English, Japanese students, they're the best students. They give their heart. They are すごく頑張ってくれるでしょ。But sometimes it's like too much. So this is when what I don't
Yeah.
want to see happen in Japan, or let me flip it. What I want to see happen in Japan is that people just get their minimum viable literacy up and running, and then match that with some experimentation. Now, experimentation doesn't mean the first time I ever use AI is on a multi-million-dollar project with a project team of like 50 people, like high stakes. Bad idea. Don't have that be the first time you use AI, right? Use AI in a way that, so one of my favorite things is, I'm a mom, I have a 3-year-old, and there's little things where, whether it's buying medicine, or whether it's like creating a meal plan for my family, or whatever it might be, right? So for example, also my husband's from Mexico, so he also always wants to eat Mexican food. So I'm always trying to be like, okay, I live in Japan, I want to make this thing, but we don't have the exact ingredients. What can you recommend
Okay.
that we could kind of get the same flavor? And then of course they don't have like the same ingredients, but they'll be like, if you take a
Mm,
bit of vinegar, a bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, you should get the same kind of umami as you would with kind of like your Mexican salsa. So this is another way where I really like to leverage AI as well, is just in your day-to-day life. Like, use it, firstly, get your confidence through experimentation. So when it comes to AI, your AI confidence isn't just from more books, more webinars, more whatever. It has to be through experimentation as well. Now, experimentation, as we said, doesn't have to be on that multi-million-dollar project for your very first time. Start slow, and especially, I mean, I'm running a business here in Japan. The amount of times that, for example, it's so good where I can, when I get, you get so much still physical posts, right? Like as a daishosha of a company. And I just take a photo and I say, of course it's in our, our secure environment. And I say, tell me what I got to do, So I think that's probably the other core thing, is that AI confidence isn't just literacy. It's not just the webinars and the podcasts. It's literacy plus experimentation.
excellent. And is there kind of like any, so you shared some pretty good frameworks, like, it's a marathon, not a race. Do you have any other frameworks for maybe helping Japanese executives understand? So it could be maybe tying it with Japanese concepts or,
Mhm.
but
So one of the most, I guess, elements of confidence. Like there's perhaps two things, like that I have a lot of confidence around Japan for their AI adoption is certainly two things. So that first thing is that 50% of the companies over 100 years old are Japanese companies in the world. So 50% of companies over 100 years old are Japanese companies. Now, if that company is 100 years over 100 years old, that means they have gone through the Industrial Revolution, they've gone through computers, they've gone through the internet, they've gone through multiple things, which means that Japan has gone through incredible change, fundamental, groundbreaking change, and stayed in the game. So I think if future is to be informed by the past, if Japanese companies have been able to be in business, 50% of Japanese companies have been enabled or to live through the industrial revolution and the computers and internet, I think there's no reason why this couldn't be true for AI as well. Now, the second reason why I believe Japan to be a really great place for AI adoption is because of the social fabric that exists around technology. I'm from Australia, so if you were to see, and Tyson, I know you're from the States, if you were to see certain areas, of course not everywhere, certain like robots or things like that, they might be vandalized or attacked or ruined or stolen or whatever. That doesn't happen here because there's a certain element. I don't know even if it goes back to like the idea of Doraemon or even like Astro Boy, these kind of like cultural elements that there's a deep connection or even a deep empathy for the human and robot experience. So I think if we think about specifically in Japan, I think those two things give us a lot of confidence. One is the fact that, Japan's gone through so much change and is still going. The second one is that the society as a fabric is there. And then maybe even the third one is that I think this might even be the time that Japan's incredible Monozukuri culture, the craftsmanship, it might actually have this revival. And I know many people are deeply sad about that there's companies that are closing because there's no one able to to take over the business, or there's one particular style of threading that is going to go extinct because the last person on the planet who knows it is going to die, like terrible things, right? That this is the element that AI can really support and help and relive or to revive even that monozukuri culture in a way that will be relevant like for the new world. But I think if we're thinking about in terms of like specifically for Japan, I think the number one element, I guess, that I really like to impress upon our Japanese leaders that we speak to is that AI confidence is not just literacy, it's plus experimentation. So you can't just keep learning or reading or outsource it to somebody, right? I think
Yeah,
that's very
yeah,
dangerous
yeah.
because I think it's also a shame that you have people that have such deep knowledge about whether it's networks or assets or whatever it might be, but because of they're missing one element being the AI element, and they think, okay, well, I'm now totally irrelevant. That's not the case at all. Remember, AI, it's a multiplier for
Multiplier.
sure, but you still have so much to give.
Mm,
And so I really want to impress upon especially our older Japanese listeners, or to understand you still have so much to give. You just have to have that little tweak, right? It's the same thing, like it's a slight tweak. Anyone can do it. It's absolutely a skill. And I think the most important thing also is to know that your skill is going to look different. The same way that, we all can read or write, but someone who is writing books or articles has a different level of writing than someone who can just write, right? So I think it's to keep that in mind as well. It's your skill, but make sure that it's the right level for you.
perfect. And yeah, I think this has been a great episode.
Oh,
I'm personally gonna send this to several of my senior HR friends
no, yeah.
who are
I'm
they
speaking,
they're
I'm having a
asked
speaking with HR. let me tell you something about really quick before we get off about HR. The HR personnel is going to be absolutely critical when it comes to AI in our AI development for a couple of reasons. Number one is because AI adoption is people, right? So if you're in HR, you're going to have to also rethink what is every single person's job in this organization? What are they going to do? Right. And that doesn't mean I'm not talking about firing anyone at all.
Mm,
I'm talking about what do the people in our organization do now that 90% of the work has been automated,
yes.
right? Now, this can be an incredible thing if you then say, oh, okay, let's do this with co-creation and work together with our people and think about, okay, where can we bring the most value, right? Another real problem that I'm hearing directly from especially recruiters, so maybe not necessarily HR, but recruiters, is that a company will say this, hi, I'm looking for an AI guy. The recruiter will then call someone and say, hey, I heard you're an AI guy. And then the AI guy will say, what kind of AI are you looking for? And then the recruiter's like, oh, I don't know. So there's a lot when it comes to HR and recruiting, I think as well, that they could be some of the first leaders in this kind of like
Mm,
redistribution
yeah.
of like talent and tasks. One of my most favorite like things that I have heard about AI that I've really resonated with is that AI is not job loss, it's task loss. And like, thank God, please take away the bad tasks so I can do the good ones.
Yeah. I like, let's say if you think job loss, it prevents, I mean, it could become a overly pessimistic situation, but let's say if it's task loss, at least it helps you be more creative.
That's it. And again, thinking about this is why it's so important that we also have to think about, like, on a Japanese level, what are we doing with AI? Is because we don't have the same labor laws that we do in the States or Australia, where it's like, thanks, but don't come Monday, right? That doesn't exist here. So you therefore, by the nature of the way that we structure companies and
Yeah.
labor laws, we have to then think about how can we upskill, retrain, redistribute, redesign jobs and organizations to then thrive in the AI economy. And this is gonna, do you know what? This is really gonna, this is not like just something a few AI people could do. This is gonna be an all hands on
Yeah.
deck exercise.
I mean, it pretty much defines the future of the organization.
100%. And this is why I'm so passionate about leaders not sitting this part out. You cannot outsource this to, a big four consultant that's
Yep.
going to tell you, this is what you think about the company. No, this is when you sit down and you deeply pour your heart out and you design a strategy for a company that you've been working at for 30
Yep.
years, right?
And
This
I
is
was,
not the time to call McKinsey, no offense to McKinsey, and be like, can you come and do our strategy? It's not the time.
I think it's a defining moment for a CHRO, Chief Human, which is it's the HR element. You get this, but for the listeners, with the strategic element of what the organization needs 3, 5, 10 years down the road.
Yeah. And then the CHRO is going to be Chief Human and Robot Officer. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Or that's the role, the new role that it will encompass. And so, yeah. So I think if you could give a little bit just how you help companies at the Human-Centered AI Leadership Academy, like some of your services, and how people can find you. That would be awesome.
Thank you, Tyson. So we do two things for people. One is, for example, we build AI solutions and we build literacy. They're the two things we do. So if you say, for example, hey, we've got this thing in our company and our individual Copilot license isn't quite cutting it. We need a deeper, more custom situation or solution. That's when you can call us and we begin with the problem. We say, what do you want to achieve? And then we build a service or we build a solution, a software solution around you. The other thing that we do is that we have our literacy piece, which is that we make sure that, when we're building that AI confidence, remember, AI is literacy plus experimentation. Experimentation and using AI is our software builds, but at the same time, we make sure that you know what's going on, and we work with you and your teams on your AI literacy so that you find the right level of AI literacy for you and your teams so that you can confidently lead into the AI future.
And one of my clients has gone through your AI literacy program
Oh, I'm so
and
happy. Did
was
they? Yeah, I hope they
I
liked it.
no, he said good things, and due to him saying good things, this led to me reaching out to interview you on this topic.
Well, I'm deeply thankful. And to be honest, one thing that, so we have a background in training. So that was kind of our claim to fame in Japan was our human-centered design training. And so the trainings that we do, the literacy piece that we do is designed by people, i.e. like me, who I have been facilitating literacy sessions, not necessarily AI, but human-centered design sessions for 10 years. I know how to make a room, a space so that people can learn, right? So that they can enjoy, so they can experience it. So I think this is one of the reasons, I think this is one of the reasons also why Microsoft chose us, because they came and experienced one of our sessions and they're like, wow, people can really understand AI when they leave one of your workshops. And I'm like, that's the idea. I don't want to create dependencies like, some of the other companies that they're like, oh, they try to make it more confusing. So, I mean, the literacy piece, education has always been so core to what, not only that what we've done at DTJ, but also who I am as a person. So so I think that's perhaps why I'm so passionate about the literacy piece, is because this AI thing is so much a marathon. It's going to take everybody, to build the ship. And I want everyone to at least feel like they have the tools.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
So you can find me. I will send all of our information over to Tyson, but of course we're on LinkedIn. You can search me. You can search our company. So you can search me. I'm Brittany Arthur. You can search. We're obviously on all of the other socials. We have our podcast as well, which I will send all over to Tyson. So you can go ahead and just click those links and come join the conversation and check out the episode that we also did with Tyson.
Perfect. And thank you so much for enlightening us on the landscape in the beginning of 2026 on AI for corporations in Japan. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Tyson. I just hope one last thing. I hope that people leave feeling more confident that they too are a contributor. This is the time to contribute. And I think it's there are a lot of issues, but certainly I think now is the time that your voice needs to be heard. And I think that you can do that. And yeah, so with that, I hope that everyone feels more positive about the future and not less positive about the future. And yeah, so get involved, and remember, AI confidence is literacy plus experimentation.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tyson.